Germany's top economic official recently landed in Ottawa, and what she publicly stated upon arrival is far more consequential than most media coverage has suggested. This was not a casual diplomatic visit or a routine courtesy call. It was a high-stakes, carefully orchestrated set of discussions that reveal a strategic realignment between Canada and one of the world's most powerful economies. The official, Katharina Reiche, Minister of Economic Affairs for Germany, representing the fourth largest economy globally, arrived with a clear mandate. She spent an entire day engaged in back-to-back meetings with three of Canada's most influential cabinet members: Melanie Joly, the Minister of Industry; Tim Hodgson, who oversees energy and natural resources; and Dominic LeBlanc, responsible for Canada's comprehensive trade strategies. Each meeting touched upon distinct sectors of the Canadian economy, yet all three shared a unified, cohesive goal. When Reich later addressed the press, she was explicit about Germany's intentions. She confirmed that German automakers are seriously considering investment in Canada, noting that favorable conditions exist to extend their industrial footprint. And she emphasized that these discussions were not merely speculative, but involved detailed numerical analysis and operational planning. For anyone familiar with German diplomatic language, this was not ambiguous or tentative phrasing. It signaled a genuine, actionable commitment couched in the formality and professional decorum characteristic of high-level German negotiations. What makes this development particularly significant is that it is not politically motivated in the sense of quid pro quo arrangements tied to military or defense contracts. During a press briefing, a reporter directly asked Reiche if Germany's interest in automotive investment was linked to the country's separate $40 billion bid to supply Canada with attack submarines. Her response was careful and deliberate. While the deals might be tangentially related, she made it clear that the automotive investment was independent and stood on its own commercial merits. This distinction is crucial because it indicates that German companies are not entering Canada merely to curry favor in a defense procurement contest. Instead, the decision is grounded in the business case, confirming that Canada offers an attractive environment for high-value manufacturing in sectors critical to the global shift toward clean technology and electric vehicles. While the submarine negotiations may have opened the initial dialogue, the automotive expansion has its own momentum and is unlikely to be contingent on winning a defense contract. This separates Canada's economic opportunity from conventional political entanglements, creating a rare scenario in which foreign investment is both commercially driven and strategically significant. The timing of this visit was not coincidental. Just 4 days before Reich's arrival in Ottawa, Mark Carney, Canada's special economic envoy, visited an auto parts factory in Vaughan, Ontario, to announce a national automotive strategy worth $3.1 billion. This initiative was designed to make Canada the preferred location for foreign automakers over other competing jurisdictions. It included targeted counter tariffs to protect Canadian industry, tax incentives for manufacturers adopting clean technologies, and a credit system that rewards domestic production. Critically, it linked defense contracts to industrial investment, effectively creating a situation in which nations wishing to secure multi-billion-dollar military deals would simultaneously be incentivized to bring high-tech manufacturing capacity to Canada. Carney's strategy, which many initially regarded as ambitious, even audacious, began to manifest in real time with Germany's engagement. The rapid sequence, from the announcement of Canada's automotive plan to Germany's high-level visit, illustrates a calculated effort to leverage economic policy, trade negotiation, and international diplomacy simultaneously. Reich's discussions in Ottawa extended far beyond automotive manufacturing. They encompassed a full spectrum of economic sectors, including defense, energy, critical minerals, and infrastructure. On the defense front, Germany, in partnership with Norway, has submitted a joint bid to supply Canada with up to 12 attack submarines through ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems. Competing against South Korea's Hanoa Ocean, the potential contract, valued at around $40 billion, represents one of the largest defense procurements in Canadian history. Carney and Ottawa skillfully integrated the defense and industrial agendas by requiring that any submarine bid include commitments to invest in automotive manufacturing on Canadian soil. This created an unprecedented level of leverage, transforming what is traditionally a defense acquisition process into a broader economic development strategy. By doing so, Canada effectively turned its military procurement into a multi-sector growth engine, compelling Germany and South Korea to compete not only on the basis of defense technology, but also on the strength of their industrial investments in Canada. The structure of these negotiations reflects a layered and interlocking strategic approach. The first layer, defense, is the obvious high-stakes arena, with Germany and South Korea both presenting technologically advanced proposals while simultaneously committing to industrial development. Layer 2 involves energy. Germany, amidst the most aggressive energy transition in European history, faces an urgent need for stable, long-term energy sources. With nuclear plants shutting down and coal being phased out, Germany must secure reliable imports to sustain its industrial base. Here, Canada emerges as a key partner, with abundant natural gas reserves capable of providing long-term liquefied natural gas contracts. Reports indicate that Germany is actively considering direct purchase agreements with Canada, bypassing intermediaries which would underpin new infrastructure investments necessary to facilitate these exports. This energy component is tightly linked to industrial investment, as it ensures that Canadian energy resources directly support the production capabilities of incoming German and South Korean manufacturers. Layer 3 of Carney's architecture involves infrastructure. This facet often receives the least attention in media reporting, but it is fundamental to the broader strategic vision. Dominic LeBlanc's portfolio, which includes the One Canadian Economy initiative, focuses on major resource and infrastructure development across the country. During Reich's visit, it was confirmed that discussions included German interest in investing in Canadian ports and other critical infrastructure projects, notably the Port of Churchill in Manitoba. This deepwater Arctic port offers direct access to European shipping lanes, enabling a supply chain that bypasses U.S. geography entirely. German investment in such infrastructure is not merely about physical assets, but about creating a logistical and industrial backbone that strengthens Canada's position in the global supply chain. These projects intersect with defense, energy, and automotive sectors, reinforcing Canada's negotiating leverage across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The fourth layer, automotive manufacturing, represents the most publicly visible component, but may paradoxically be the least surprising. German automakers, including Volkswagen's subsidiary PowerCo, have already initiated construction on an EV battery factory in St. Thomas, Ontario. The physical presence of German manufacturing in Canada serves as a concrete demonstration of the viability and attractiveness of Canadian industrial investment. Reich's comments underscore this, highlighting Canada as a reliable and compelling partner for long-term industrial engagement. With the groundwork already in place, the question shifts from whether German automakers are interested to which brands, facilities, timelines, and conditions will define the investment. Canadian ministers are in ongoing discussions with key German manufacturers, examining detailed plans and exploring the operational specifics that will determine the pace and scale of the industrial expansion. The interconnection of these four layers, defense, energy, infrastructure, and automotive, creates a highly resilient strategic network. Each component supports the others, ensuring that no single political shift or executive decision can easily dismantle the overarching structure. A crucial dimension of this strategy is the competitive dynamic between Germany and South Korea. South Korea is already actively establishing an industrial footprint in Canada. Hyundai Motor Group's executive chairman, accompanied by a senior South Korean government delegation led by the presidential chief of staff, visited Ottawa to negotiate a memorandum of understanding that explicitly advances South Korean automotive manufacturing, including EVs, battery production, and hydrogen-powered vehicles. The fact that the second most powerful official in South Korea personally participated signals the high priority Seoul places on this initiative. Consequently, Canada is witnessing a rare confluence in which two of the world's most technologically sophisticated manufacturing economies are not only vying for defense contracts, but simultaneously competing to establish enduring industrial operations in the Canadian market. The implications of this competition extend beyond economics into geopolitics, as it shifts leverage away from traditional centers of influence and establishes Canada as a pivotal hub in the global manufacturing ecosystem. Germany's engagement is similarly multifaceted. While its automotive investment initially stemmed from discussions related to submarine procurement, it has now become an autonomous track based purely on business rationale. German companies are assessing the feasibility, financials, and operational logistics of Canadian manufacturing independently. This bifurcation of negotiations, defense on one track, industry on the other, allows Canada to extract maximum strategic benefit from both avenues while insulating each from the contingencies of the other. Germany's willingness to invest in Canadian ports, energy infrastructure, and critical mineral projects further amplifies the depth of engagement. By intertwining investments across multiple sectors, Canada ensures that these agreements are durable, mutually reinforcing, and resistant to sudden policy shifts or external pressures from other global powers. Energy considerations alone reveal a deeper strategic calculus. Germany's domestic energy transition has left it in urgent need of reliable imports, and Canada's abundant natural gas reserves, along with its growing expertise in critical minerals, position it as a natural partner. Beyond immediate energy supply, Canada's lithium, cobalt, and nickel deposits form the essential components for the next generation of EV batteries, placing Canadian exports at the center of Europe's automotive transformation. The alignment of Canada's industrial assets with Germany's technological and energy needs creates a symbiotic relationship in which both parties stand to gain substantially, strengthening economic and geopolitical ties simultaneously. Infrastructure development, particularly in strategically located Arctic ports, complements these industrial and energy initiatives. By facilitating direct shipping routes to Europe and other international markets, Canadian ports like Churchill allow foreign manufacturers to establish efficient supply chains independent of U.S. logistical constraints. This is particularly valuable for nations like Germany and South Korea, whose industrial expansion in Canada could otherwise be hindered by geographical bottlenecks. The inclusion of infrastructure investment as a formal layer in negotiations demonstrates sophisticated planning by Canadian policymakers, ensuring that industrial commitments translate into operational reality rather than theoretical agreements. Ultimately, the automotive layer serves as both a tangible proof of concept and a strategic anchor. German and South Korean manufacturers are not merely exploring hypothetical investments, they are actively building factories, negotiating incentives, and assessing long-term operational feasibility. Canada's National Automotive Plan, introduced by Carney, created the conditions to catalyze these commitments, linking them to broader defense and infrastructure strategies. By orchestrating these interdependent layers, Carney has effectively designed a multifaceted strategy in which foreign investments in one sector reinforce commitments in others, creating a resilient multidimensional network of economic engagement. The strategic implications for global geopolitics are profound. No single policy change, executive order, or trade dispute can dismantle the interconnected framework that Canada has now set in motion. The simultaneous engagement of Germany and South Korea establishes competitive tension that ensures continued investment and innovation, while also reinforcing Canada's negotiating leverage across multiple sectors. For Washington, this represents a challenge. The reorientation of industrial investment flows toward Canada diminishes the influence of traditional economic and political levers. By combining defense, energy, critical minerals, infrastructure, and automotive manufacturing into a single coherent strategy, Canada has positioned itself as a central node in the global economic network, capable of shaping investment decisions, supply chains, and industrial capabilities on a continental scale. The careful sequencing of these negotiations further underscores their sophistication. The Automotive Plan announcement preceded Reich's visit by only a few days, creating immediate incentives for German engagement. Subsequent press briefings clarified that automotive investment was not contingent on defense contracts, signaling confidence and independence in the business case. Simultaneously, South Korea's high-level delegation reinforced competitive pressure, ensuring that Canada remained the focal point for major industrial investments. The combination of timing, multi-layered strategy, and inter-country competition illustrates a highly coordinated and forward-looking approach to economic diplomacy. In conclusion, the events in Ottawa reveal a profound shift in the way Canada engages with global powers and multinational corporations. The strategy is not about short-term gains or symbolic gestures. It is about creating durable, mutually reinforcing industrial, energy, and infrastructure networks that secure Canada's long-term economic and geopolitical position. By leveraging defense contracts to incentivize industrial investment, integrating energy and critical mineral agreements, and actively shaping infrastructure development, Canadian policymakers have engineered a sophisticated framework that ensures engagement from multiple global players. Germany's independent automotive investment, alongside South Korea's active industrial footprint, confirms that Canada has become a central battleground for the next generation of manufacturing and technological development. What Mark Carney and Canadian leaders have achieved is a multidimensional, interlocking strategy in which every sector supports and strengthens the others, making it exceedingly difficult for external actors to disrupt or reverse. This is not merely a story about cars or submarines. It is a story about the emergence of a strategically aligned, economically resilient Canada at the heart of a rapidly evolving global order poised to capitalize on the ambitions of the world's most sophisticated economies. Think about the significance of the competitive dynamic now unfolding in Canada. This is not a matter of charity, foreign aid, or a scenario where Canada is cap in hand asking international partners for investment. What is happening is profoundly different. Two of the most advanced manufacturing nations in the world are actively competing to establish industrial capacity on Canadian soil. When was the last time Canada found itself in such a position? Historically, there has rarely, if ever, been a moment when Germany and South Korea were simultaneously racing to build automotive factories in Canada while bidding on the country's largest ever defense contract. This is unprecedented territory. Observing Canadian economic policy over the years, it is clear that nothing comparable has occurred before. This situation reflects a new chapter in Canada's industrial and strategic engagement with global powers. And the full picture becomes even more extraordinary when considering that it is not limited to Germany and South Korea alone. Documents now confirm that Canada is in active discussions with Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers regarding joint ventures with Canadian parts suppliers. Industry officials have confirmed meetings with executives from multiple Chinese automotive brands with the explicit goal of producing Canadian-Chinese electric vehicles for global export, rather than exclusively for domestic consumption. In a related development, Canada recently signed an agreement allowing up to 49,000 Chinese-made EVs to enter the country annually, at significantly reduced tariffs, a dramatic shift from the 100% duty that had been in place just months prior. When laid out in full, the scope of Canada's positioning is remarkable. On one side, the country is negotiating with Germany and South Korea, linking defense procurement directly to automotive investment in a manner unprecedented anywhere in the world. On another front, Canada is opening pathways for Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers to partner with domestic suppliers, establishing production on Canadian soil. Interwoven through all of these initiatives are energy deals, critical mineral agreements, port investments, and infrastructure partnerships that extend far beyond the automotive sector. Canada is not merely choosing sides in the global economic realignment. Rather, it is becoming the convergence point for multiple advanced economies. The contrast with the United States' position is striking. While Germany's minister is flying to Ottawa, South Korean delegations are signing memorandums, and Chinese joint ventures are under discussion, the U.S. government has been publicly threatening to block the opening of a new international bridge linking Ontario and Michigan. The president suggested that the U.S. should own at least half of a bridge it neither built nor funded, on land it does not control, connecting a city it does not govern. These demands, coupled with tariffs on Canadian goods, stand in sharp contrast to the long-term energy contracts and industrial investments being offered by Germany and South Korea. This divergence in approach helps explain why Canada's strategy is taking shape in the way it is. Reich's comments regarding Germany's automotive interests being independent of the submarine deal carry enormous implications. If the submarine contract is awarded to South Korea's Hana Ocean rather than the German-Norwegian consortium, Germany will still maintain significant economic engagement with Canada. Automotive investments, LNG agreements, and critical mineral partnerships remain intact regardless of a single procurement outcome. This is the architecture Carney has deliberately built, a multi-anchor system designed to ensure that Canada's economic sovereignty does not depend on isolated transactions. Strategic interlocking dependencies create value for both Canada and its partners independent of any single contract or negotiation. Reich herself emphasized that Germany views Canada as occupying a similar geopolitical position. Both are middle powers in a world where the largest economies are becoming unreliable partners. Europe's largest economy sees in Canada a reflection of its own pressures, the need for resilience, diversification, and the establishment of new relationships as old alliances fragment. This represents far more than a trade agreement. It is a form of strategic alignment that is now codified across submarines, LNG contracts, battery factories, and port infrastructure. While Reich was careful to note that final investment decisions rest with the companies themselves, not governments, the significance of her statements should not be understated. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, and other brands will ultimately decide whether to proceed based on financial calculations, yet Germany's automotive sector is undergoing a painful restructuring domestically. Job cuts, technological transitions, and the shift to electric vehicles make international investment decisions challenging. That said, Reich's acknowledgement that her industry is looking into numbers and details indicates that the conversation has moved beyond speculation. While new investments are not yet formalized, the business case for Canadian manufacturing is stronger now than at any point in the past 2 decades. Canada offers a free trade agreement with the European Union, tariff-free access to major markets, critical mineral resources that reduce dependency on Chinese supply chains, affordable and clean electricity in key provinces, and a highly skilled workforce with over a century of automotive manufacturing experience. Coupled with $3 billion in government-backed support and the unpredictability of U.S. tariffs, Canada increasingly presents not just a viable alternative, but a strategically superior option for foreign manufacturers. Looking ahead, several developments warrant close attention. The imminent decision on Canada's $40 billion submarine contract will test the durability of Carney's multi-layered strategy. Should Germany win, the full package of automotive and energy investments comes with political momentum. Should South Korea prevail, Germany's economic logic remains compelling, and the auto and energy tracks continue independently. South Korea, having secured the defense contract, will face pressure to follow through on previously negotiated industrial commitments. In this way, Canada has structured competition to work in its favor, ensuring that the country benefits regardless of the outcome. The energy dimension is equally critical. Long-term LNG offtake agreements with Germany could create a foundation for new East Coast or Port of Montreal export infrastructure, establishing direct European revenue streams that bypass U.S. intermediaries entirely. Finally, the potential materialization of Chinese joint ventures would be historically unprecedented, creating Canadian-built EVs partially owned by domestic partners and exported globally under Canada's trade agreements. When stepping back and examining the full timeline, the scope and speed of developments are striking. On February 5th, Carney unveiled a $3.1 billion automotive strategy linking defense procurement to industrial investment. By February 9th, Germany's economic minister had met with 3 Canadian cabinet ministers, confirming German automotive interest while simultaneously discussing submarines, LNG, and infrastructure. At the same time, South Korea had already formalized agreements, Chinese joint ventures were under discussion, and European critical mineral agreements were being extended. What Carney has orchestrated is not merely an automotive or industrial strategy. It is a deliberate, systematic effort to reduce Canada's structural dependence on a single trading partner by engaging multiple advanced economies, each with independent incentives to deepen their relationship with Canada. Every German battery plant, every LNG contract with Europe, every submarine partnership represents a supply chain or strategic relationship outside U.S. control. These developments do not materialize overnight, and the risks remain real. but the trajectory is unmistakable, and the world's most sophisticated economies are responding. This multi-layered approach creates a durable framework of economic and strategic resilience, positioning Canada as a central node in the global industrial and geopolitical network.